Good evening, I'm Cynthia Ng. This is AWANI Tonight. Early election may threaten stability, and Malaysia moves up ranking in press freedom. But has the situation improved? More on that coming right up. The police are tracking down two local male suspects in relation to a shooting at a Bukit Bintang hotel room yesterday afternoon. Dangwangi District Police Chief ACP Nordelhan Yahya said they have identified the suspects, who are in their 40s and 50s. Nordelhan said a local man who was the victim's roommate at the hotel was arrested at the scene. He will be remanded until next Monday to facilitate investigations. On Tuesday, a 49-year-old local man was found dead with a gunshot wound to the forehead at a hotel room in Bukit Bintang an hour after checking in. Police said the victim was discovered by a hotel employee who gained entry to the room and then called police at about 7 p.m. The case is currently being investigated under Section 302 of the Penal Code for murder. Padang Rengas MP Datuk Sri Nazri Abdul Aziz said the government is stable and should not be swayed by calls for an early general election. He said the public would punish UMNO for creating instability if the party tries to push for parliament to be dissolved now.
UMNO, he said, should heed the Yang di-Pertuan Agong Sultan Abdullah Sultan Ahmad Shah's call for a stable government. He added that the government run by Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob has no issues, and those demanding early polls are just making excuses. Meanwhile, de facto Law Minister Datuk Sri Wan Junaidi Tuanku Jaafar advised for the anti-party hopping law to be put in place before GE15. He said this is to avoid elected representatives from jumping ship during the election. Wan Junaidi also said the Parliamentary Special Select Committee on the proposed legislation, which he chairs, had not reached a final decision in its fine-tuning of the bill. The committee was scheduled to meet again on May 12th.
Malaysia jumped 6 spots in the World Press Freedom Ranking by Reporters Without Borders this year compared to last year. However, Malaysia's score fell almost 10 percentage points when compared to 2021. To understand this better, as well as the state of media in the country, we speak to Research for Social Advancements Raja Ahmad Iskandar Faris.
The RSF World Press Freedom Index this year, 2022, used a different methodology compared to last year. It did say in the footnote of the report that care should be taken when we compare 2022 rankings with the scores from 2021. And also being said that 12 countries have dropped to very bad, the category of very bad in this report. So we need to take that into account. It doesn't necessarily mean from the report that we have improved, but maybe perhaps other countries have fallen to a worse condition than before.
The right to freedom of expression in Malaysia is guaranteed under Article 10 of the Federal Constitution. However, Iskandar said there is a need to relook at laws that might curtail media freedom and freedom of expression.
We've seen it been used before. In 2015, the Najib's administration used the Print and Presses Act to actually suspend The Edge because of their unfavorable reporting on 1MDB. This cannot happen, this shouldn't happen, and this shouldn't be allowed to happen again. So this law that I mentioned is one of the many laws that should be relooked into. We have the Communications Act, we also have the Sedition Act, we have Section 23A of the Penal Code, that all of this and many more, all of this compounds to a restriction of freedom of expression, and we need to have a thorough look into this. Not just to champion this is not just the agenda of the reporters or the journalists, but I call on all sectors, including the civil societies, the interested public, to be interested in this issue and address the matter that is in front of us.
The Ministry of Education will find a speedy solution for teachers appointed on a contract of service basis, whose contracts are due to expire next month. Education Minister Dr. Razzie Jadin said he has instructed relevant parties to look into the matter to resolve the issue immediately.
In a posting on Facebook and Twitter, he said that the teachers' concerns about their contracts were raised by commenters on his social media accounts recently, which drew his attention. Razzie assured that the Education Ministry and Education Service Commission are taking appropriate action in accordance with rules and procedures to come up with the best solution. He added that an announcement would be made once the process was completed.
The 5 new digital banks announced by Bank Negara Malaysia recently are unlikely to disrupt the banking sector in the medium term. In a statement, Fitch Ratings said that the regulatory limits placed on digital banks will limit the competition they pose to traditional banks within the next 5 years. It explained that Bank Negara's licensing framework caps the digital banks' assets at 3 billion ringgit during the foundational phase, which they cannot exit until at least mid-2026 and potentially as late as mid-2029. This means aggregate digital bank balance sheets will be less than 1% of the system in the medium term, under even the most bullish assumptions. Fitch Ratings added there were other structural market hurdles for digital banks to overcome before becoming profitable, including competitive pricing and major local banks' formidable market share. Last week, Bank Negara announced that digital banking licenses had been granted to 5 consortia, which included super app operator Grab, owner of Shopee online marketplace C, and Axiata's fintech company Boost. We'll continue after the break. Stay with us.
Kita sering menyangka rumah kita tentunya bersih, namun debu-debu yang tersembunyi tetap ada. Dyson V12 Detect Slim dengan teknologi laser pengesan debu memerangkap zarah yang tidak boleh dilihat dengan mata kasar. Kuasa sedotan menyesuaikan diri secara automatik dan penapisan keseluruhan mesin memerangkap habuk halus, membersihkan tempat yang sukar dicapai dan memberikan anda bukti saintifik. Beraya di rumah yang lebih bersih bersama Dyson. Nikmati pelan ansuran faedah 0% dari Dyson.
Insan yang berjaya juga insan seperti kita. Didorong keazaman demi mencapai cita-cita mereka. Super. Melengkapkan juadah anda.
Gubal Akta baru berkaitan larangan ahli Dewan Rakyat untuk bertukar parti.
Sarawak telah dipilih destinasi lawatan pelancong 2022.
Tiada lagi penggiliran di sekolah dan pastinya ini adalah perkabaran gembira.
4.7 juta kenderaan akan berada di jalan raya sempena dengan Aidilfitri.
Foreign Minister Datuk Seri Saifuddin Abdullah had proposed for ASEAN to establish an informal relationship with Myanmar's shadow government, triggering backlash from the junta. But after a year of little to no progress made on the implementation of ASEAN's 5-point consensus peace plan, what are the options available on the table to bring stability to Myanmar and restore democracy? We speak to Dr. Rahul Mishra from UM's Asia-Europe Institute.
The developments that have taken place over the past 1 year, it shows a resolve in our sense approach in dealing with the Myanmar conundrum. Unfortunately, ASEAN does not have enough mechanisms, to compel the junta to take any corrective steps to restore democracy. But if you compare this with the previous episodes, like coup in Thailand, or last time when military junta was there in Myanmar, compared to those episodes, I think there is a remarkable change. ASEAN is certainly more firm on this and yet flexible. And I think on that context, we have to also understand that last year, the junta leadership was not invited to attend the ASEAN summit in Brunei. They were not even present in the China-ASEAN summit in November. And that is a trend that's likely to continue even with the US ASEAN summit that is to be held on May 12th and 13th. So one thing that we must understand is ASEAN is not used to boycotting its members. It's the first time that ASEAN has taken such a step.
On to other international news. The European Commission proposes the phasing out of Russian oil imports by the end of the year. This is part of a sixth round of sanctions to increase pressure on Vladimir Putin over his invasion of Ukraine. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said that Russian supply of crude oil will be phased out within 6 months and refined products by the end of the year. She urged EU countries to support the ban proposal, which requires approval from all 27 member nations to take effect. Experts say Russian energy supplies to the EU have been a complicated task for the bloc. This is because the region is reliant on Russia for several sources of energy, including oil. Based on 2020 figures, Russian oil imports accounted for about 25% of crude purchases in EU. China's capital, Beijing, ordered a snap shutdown of public transport today as city authorities scramble to restrict movement, part of efforts to stamp out an ongoing COVID-19 outbreak. Beijing is trying to avoid a Shanghai-style lockdown, but experts think the way China is tackling the virus is hurting its economy.
Over 3 dozen subway stations and around 150 bus routes were suspended indefinitely. The city has recorded a little over 500 COVID-19 infections, out of a population of around 22 million. However, the low caseload hasn't stopped authorities from taking strict measures. The steps taken by Beijing do not amount to a sweeping lockdown, but more of a targeted attempt to seal areas from where cases have been reported. Residents, however, are anxious about an impending full lockdown. In Shanghai, most people are still not allowed to leave their housing compounds after a month. Economists warn that the economic shock from the latest lockdowns could be worse than the aftermath of the Wuhan outbreak 2 years ago.
Sri Lanka's opposition party is seeking a vote of no confidence to oust Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa and his cabinet. The move came amidst the worst economic crisis facing the country that triggered nationwide protests. Demonstrators demand that the Rajapaksa-led government be held accountable.
They are also demanding the resignation of his younger brother, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. A majority vote in the 225-member parliament would be needed to remove Rajapaksa and his cabinet from power. The ruling party had nearly 150 votes, but their strength had plummeted in recent weeks due to defections. Sri Lanka is on the brink of bankruptcy with foreign currency crisis that caused severe shortages of essential goods. Sri Lanka owed $25 billion in foreign debt. It currently has less than $1 billion in foreign reserves. The country recently announced it is suspending payments on its foreign loans pending a contingency plan with the International Monetary Fund.
That is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. I'm Cynthia Ng. Thank you for watching.